Hey, what up, everybody? Steve Breach coming to you. In this video, we'll be talking about the sort of wrestling tradition of shaking hands in the locker room. This is brought to light mainly because of the sort of situation that's been brought up with Generation Me or the Young Bucks, whatever you know them as, whether if you're a TNA fan or a PWG fan. Basically, it was all brought to light that, Rob Van Dam did an interview and just sort of, I guess you can say, put him out on Front Street, just bashed the hell out of him, buried him because the whole time they were there, I guess they never approached Ron Van Dam and showed him the sign of respect by shaking his hand or asking him for any sort of advice on what they were doing. And this was actually as they were leaving the company. I think they were already on their way out by the time the interview was actually printed and published. Then, once they part ways with TNA, they head over to WB. They have a tryout match, and the next morning, Booker T bashes them. Booker T is the best friend of Rob Van Dam, and just bashes him again. Just puts him out there, just saying that they never approached Booker T and never gave him the sign of respect as a legend, as a commentator, as a guy that worked for the company. And that was also followed up by a tweet from Goldust saying he never approached them either, which I think sort of borderline breaks some sort of code to me. I know that Goldust is new to a new role where he's an agent now, sort of like a trainer. He bumps around in the ring with a lot of the guys before the shows, helps them get ready, so on and so forth, going through the matches, helping guys with tryout matches, so on and so forth. And um, it's just weird for me as as sort of like a leader of the locker room, somebody who now has crossed the line out of the locker room into sort of like a company role. I don't really think Goldust should be doing that stuff, but it is sort of like pretty cool to see somebody back up the things that Booker T and Rob Van Dam are saying. Not two good friends. It's sort of like getting outside of that circle and saying this story really is true. Putting him out there, which is really a pretty dumb idea, because if you think about the spot they were in TNA, they were looking to make a name for themselves. They were awesome on the independent stuff. I can't say that I've seen tons and tons of stuff from them from PWG, so on and so forth, but I've read a lot of tweets and I've watched a lot of reviews and videos from you guys out there who just say these guys are just phenomenal. They're just great at what they do, and they need to get on that mainstream market. But for not to say hi and shake hands to somebody like Rob Van Dam, who is mainly one of the main stars in TNA, I have no idea why this guy isn't in the main event for the company, but it just doesn't make sense. I would make sure I go out of my way, to shake his hand, because you never know, if this guy's ever gonna have a match with you, he can put you on the card. I mean, Rob Van Dam's at a place in TNA that he really doesn't have to give 100%, and you can tell by watching his matches that he picks and chooses the matches that he really wants to go out on. I guess you can sort of say like he, is a Randy Moss, where he just admits that he doesn't, give you everything, if he really doesn't have to. But I mean, if he liked you and wanted to help you reach the upper ranks of TNA, if you would have just took your time out to shake his hand, he would have gone out and probably had 100% of a match with you guys, and really brought light to a whole bunch of fans of people that want to like you, that just don't really know who you are. Now, when you jump over to WB, it doesn't make sense at all for you not to go up and shake Booker T's hand. Booker T is the commentator on SmackDown. And yeah, you're working a dark match, and more than likely you're not going to, get any TV exposure out of this, so you don't need it. But what if there's some sort of freak accident that night, and you don't know what's going to happen, and they lose all these guys, and they have to get put on, some sort of a squash match, or, it just gets written in, and they find themselves on TV. I mean, guys that don't have TV deals find themselves in these matches all the time. It just, it doesn't make any sense. What if he was commentating your match that night and he wanted to say something over about you, but he doesn't know anything about you now, so he can't put you over at all. You're just two random guys that might as well just came out of the crowd. You're anybody watching SmackDown or doesn't know who you are. Yeah, you're gonna have your followings of fans that know you from ROH, PWG, and other indies around the world, but I mean that's like 10% of the people out there. There's a whole bunch of other people who just don't know the difference between you and the guys selling the soda. I mean, you need the announcers to really back you up and tell us that you're something special. That's why you got to get out there and shake this guy's hand and show him the respect. Because if he doesn't know anything about you, or he doesn't care about you, him burying you on the mic, it's just as worse as somebody burying you or sandbagging you in the ring. Because no matter if you go out there and have the match of your life, if the announcer's not behind you, giving him 100%, it just doesn't make sense at all. And like I said about Goldust is the guy that helps people work out in the ring and stuff like that. He's new in this agent role, and why is he gonna want to go to Vince and say, Vince, you gotta hire these guys because they're great? If you're not even gonna show him the sign of respect, so it's dumb not to say hi to those three people. I mean, this rolls around into just our normal lives as well. I know that when I go to my normal job every day, you try to say hi to everybody on your way in that he makes eye contact with you or looks at you, because you got to work with those people all day long, and you don't want any stupid stuff coming out of that. But I mean, like I get a lot of spare side work where I go from I do my normal job, I go to other I guess you can say stores and shops out there, and I work for them because the people that work there know I'm dependable. I'll show up on time, do what I have to do, and go home. But also, I'm not going to make any, I guess you can say rouge, or I'm not going to, fire up the other people that work there. You go in there, you shake their hands, and because you're going to be working with them, whether for the rest of your shift, all 8 hours or 2 hours until they go home or whatever. But you want to leave a good impression on them. That way, when some spare work comes up, they'll be, hey, call that Steve guy, see if he's working, see if he can come up and cover that shift, because that puts more money in your pocket. Because not only because they saw your work and they thought it was good, but because they like you. I mean, that's just dumb. I mean, if you don't like somebody, when something opens up, you're not gonna want the guy that you don't like to come in there and work. And that's what these guys are. I mean, I'm sure they get plenty of work with PWG and ROH, but there's no secret to the fact that you want to be in WB if you want to make big money. You want to be in TNA if you want to make a little bit of money that's less than what you're going to make there. I guess I didn't mean to really throw them under the fire, but it's just dumb. And that's all put under the thing. The only reason why I'm making this video so late is because I've been listening to the Brian Alvarez podcast on Figure 4, and he's been talking it for the last couple of days, and he actually had Lance Storm on the show, and they talked about it, and Lance sort of came into it and said what the reason why they all shake hands is it goes back to the old days when actually gimmicks were protected, and you needed to know, like, if somebody that was coming into the locker room knew what was going on, or if they were fresh to the business, you didn't want to expose that maybe two guys in a main program really didn't like each other, or something like that these guys were playing cards. You couldn't do that, or this guy would go out and leak it to everybody all over town that he saw Hogan and Roddy Piper sharing a soda in the corner or something like that. You gotta, it was to smarten up the boys in the locker room that you were one of them, and you weren't gonna go expose everything that you were doing, and also just it's just a sign of respect. Like I was saying before, he was saying there's nobody that's not against it. He was saying that when Undertaker finally does return to SmackDown, whether if it's today, tomorrow, next year, or whatever, it was like he's coming into a locker room that he hasn't been in, so more than likely there's going to be guys that he doesn't know, and it doesn't matter who's in that locker room, whether it's Randy Orton, Sin Cara, or the guy that's going to be jerking the curtain that night that's local from the town. He's going to walk around and show everybody the due respect and say, hey, whatever, introduce himself and say good to see you, because that's Undertaker. He's the leader of that locker room. He's been the leader of the SmackDown locker room, and he sets the standard for what moves on today, and he's more than likely, the oldest veteran out there. He needs to keep this going on for the next, few years. And Lance told a funny story about how he was talking with Edge the last time he was in Toronto, the last time he was on the SmackDown, not on SmackDown, but he was at SmackDown. It was pretty funny because of the fact that he said that Maxine, who was new with NXT at the time, was doing what she thought was the right thing to do, was walk around and say hi to everybody, and she walked up and she interrupted a conversation with Edge and Lance Storm, and she introduced herself to Edge, and then she turned and she walked away, and she didn't say anything to Lance, and Lance didn't seem that affected by it, because he said she'd probably never seen a match of his and didn't know who he was, and Edge then got a bad taste for Maxine because how rude she was. She interrupted Lance to talk to Edge, and then didn't have anything to say to him, no matter if it's anybody. I mean, it's just rude, and it walked away. So that I don't know how much heat Edge really put on her, but I'm sure it put some sort of heat on her. And I mean, there's just a right way and a wrong thing to do things, and sometimes you just got to be smart about what you do, and just show some people respect. I mean, it's real easy. It only takes a second of your time. I don't really know what they were doing that was so important, but that's just about it. Shake your hands. See if you breach. Nice to meet you.